So, welcome to the inaugural edition of Football Fights. The premise is simple. I'll be fielding football-related questions to a panel of experts, and they'll find out, for the most part verbally, I hope, to be crowned champion of this rather snazzy belt. Edit for effect. Here we go. I'm Alice. I've had a few, Mac. Let me introduce this weekend's contestants. With a chin like Jimmy Hill and a first touch like Jimmy Savile, he wants the title belt purely for fashion purposes. It's Daniel. Does my chin look big in this? Joseph, I need a new belt, buckle and muckle. Allergic to eggs, nuts, oxygen and group stage wildcards. It's Aaron, the anaphylactic shocker, Graydon. I'll have the final decision. Quality of answer and passion of delivery will score highly. Low blows and bad puns are welcome. So we're going to start off nice and simply, lads. Best ever Premier League January transfer. I'm sure there'll be no controversy here. So directly on my left, if Dan could start, please.
So I am going for the £7 million bargain. Only the second scariest looking defender Man United have ever had, Nemanja Vidic. Interesting.
Could you elaborate on why?
Well, Man United hadn't won anything for 3 years before he joined. What followed was 5 Premier League titles, a Champions League, a bunch of League Cups, which I mean they'd be gagging for right now, Man United fans. Just the League Cup factor. So yeah, I just think with what he won, the fact that he gets into Premier League all-time 11s, all that sort of stuff, has to be the best January transfer ever. Surely Aaron can't think of anyone better than that.
Sounds like a strong start, but do you have anything where you could pick that apart and rubbish what he's just said?
Well, yeah, I think another defender and that's my choice, is going to be, what was your 7 million minus the 75 million pound defender, Virgil van Dijk.
What a waste of bloody money.
So at the time, I mean, Liverpool had went even longer without a league title, and they weren't doing they were on the up, but they weren't doing as bad as what Man United were. And Virgil van Dijk was one of the missing pieces to the puzzle, and dominance over...
Dominance, absolute dominance, 1 Premier League title.
But also the points total, and...
What, that points total when they finished second, that one?
Oh yeah,
buzz in, all them scouts as well, buzz in.
Over 2 seasons.
Is that your scouts impression?
I was trying to. But also Champions League as well. So
yeah, I mean, Vidic got to 3 Champions League finals in 4 years, winning 1, and let's be honest, the GOAT Messi absolutely ripped him apart in 2, and that's not his fault. You could have had prime Baresi Beckenbauer at centre back in those games, in that combination of Messi, Iniesta, Yaya Touré at the back.
Well, speaking of someone that kept Messi quiet, when Liverpool came back to beat Barcelona, the comeback win in Anfield, Messi, was he even on the pitch?
What about the first leg of that game? How many did they concede then?
I'm on about the second of the comeback.
Oh yeah, cherry picking your stats there, Aaron. I love it.
Over the course of the 2 games.
I should have got beat 4-0 if Ousmane Dembele could finish his dinner, but didn't. I think as well, when you look at it, not only has Vidic won a considerable amount of more titles, that Man United team is probably the best Man United team of our lifetime, and that I think that includes the treble team. I know that Gary Neville always says that's sort of the best team, but they hadn't won anything for 3 years. They bring him in, and it's borderline instant success, and it's consistent success. And obviously, look, Van Dijk's had his Premier League and he's had his Champions League, but that's it. And I mean, that's fantastic. As Newcastle fans would give our left nut just for a quick glimpse at one of those. But when you look at just how much Vidic won, but there's also the fact that Yoplait cost 75 million. They've not been able to buy anyone since, really.
So,
and also at the same time, I think it was the summer transfer window. It was the summer transfer window after Van Dijk. They brought in Alisson Becker,
Yeah.
And I think that has such a massive impact on Liverpool's success, because Liverpool, obviously, they got to the Champions League final with Van Dijk, lost. Yeah, he played well, played all right, conceded 3 goals. I don't think there was much you can do about Gareth Bale's 80-yard in the air overhead kick and the 2 howlers by the keeper, absolutely granted, but still lost the game. They won the Champions League when they brought in the best keeper in the Champions League for Roma that previous season. And then they won the league again with Becker. In my opinion, he is the best keeper in the league. Mm-hmm. He's been the best keeper in the league the last 3 or 4 years. I know there's a sort of debate, him or Edison. Have a long shot at Edison and it's probably going in. And he can't really demand his area very well. He's great with his feet, but so what? I think with that, it was that double signing that really, really helped solidify Liverpool's defence. And then they've got those 2 titles and they've won nothing since. They won the European Super Cup against Chelsea. That's like the Charity Shield of Europe. Like, I'm not counting that. Whereas Vidic, 7 million. Imagine buying Nemanja Vidic for 7 million. Imagine anyone.
But can I just interject there? There's a number of years have passed between those 2 signings, and obviously transfer fees have gone astronomical in the meantime. Yeah. Are they comparable, would you say?
Yeah, so I would say I did a little bit of research into it. The reason that Liverpool had to pay so much was because their 60 million bid in the summer broke down and Liverpool weren't in a solid challenging position. They had to try and get top 4. Klopp had picked Van Dijk out and he was like, I want this player. And so at the time, it was a world record fee for a defender, and then Harry Maguire came along.
Yeah.
Bargain. But I think as well, that's a very valid point about the 7 million. I don't know how much that would be now. Well, Man United tax.
If you look at it, if Rio Ferdinand was there before Nemanja Vidic, and he was the world transfer record, or certainly Premier League record for a defender at, I want to say 28. It was 28, 30 or 32. I can't remember which one. Fact check me. Let's just say 28. I'll give you a hand. It was 28 million. Several years before Vidic, that means Vidic cost 21 million less than the other defender in there. Like, I think after his career at Man United, or a few seasons into his career at Man United, then yes, he's a Rio Ferdinand value player in terms of how much money you would go and spend on him. But I think the equivalent nowadays is literally, we've signed a £25 million or €25 million player from someone in Eastern Europe that's doing okay in the Champions League, had a good Champions League group stage or something like that. I think that's literally the equivalent.
Was anyone else brought in that same transfer period, or a couple of transfers either side that could have also helped?
Definitely not Chris Evra. He wasn't brought in that January at all. So, but I mean, to be fair, he actually wasn't very good his first 6 months at Man United.
Because that's the thing as well, is that the unit around Man United, having Vidic and Ferdinand together, like if Vidic, granted he did.
What you're trying to say about Dejan Lovren, mate? Come on, just say it. Get it out there. Tell everyone he's not the best defender in the world.
I'll get there, trust me. When Vidic would get the occasional red card, he also had a great pressing system in Manchester. There was the kind of the fear factor around Old Trafford. And the thing is, like, we've seen the whole span of Vidic's career in Man United yet. Van Dijk's is only like 3 or 4 seasons old.
So and he's way behind. He's currently way behind Vidic.
How long was Vidic there?
5 years, 6 years? 6 years.
But also,
I'm sure he was there for 6 years. Oh no, he might have been there longer. You'll have to fact check that. But he won more titles than he didn't win more titles. But also, you say a great pressing system. What, you want to tell me Jurgen Klopp's Liverpool team got a rubbish press?
So
best pressing team in the league. I mean, Salah is awful breaking the goal scoring record in a single season for any player. Yeah, I mean, really, really terrible players, Aaron.
No. So
7 world record fee on the goalkeeper. Shocking.
So
shocking. I mean, you've just don't want to spoil anything for later, but there might be a talk of best fullbacks, and I'm sure someone might be trying to convince me that Liverpool's best the best fullback in the world is Liverpool's.
I'm playing the tactics here.
And I mean, I think the one on the other side might be even better. So we'll call like comparably, yes, Man United, fantastic defence. Liverpool, fantastic defence. Man United, fantastic forwards. Liverpool, fantastic forwards. I think as far as teams go, they are absolutely both brilliant. I mean, that Man United team were sensational to win that many titles, 3 on the spin, to get to 3 out of 4 Champions League final, only getting beaten by what many believe to be the best club team in history for 2 of them. They were fantastic, but he was that final piece of the jigsaw because they were struggling, and like I say, they hadn't won anything in 3 years. As Man United at the time, they were an absolute force to be reckoned with in the Premier League. Destroyed all of my hopes and dreams as a Newcastle fan. They've battered other teams' hopes and dreams throughout the years. There's a reason why they're so universally hated in England, because they've won everything and ripped all everything apart.
Yeah.
And it was great not seeing them win anything for 3 years. The buy Vidic, 7 million. They did buy Evra. He was not very good for the first season, Patrice Evra. He took a little bit of time to bed it, and then, yeah, absolutely fantastic. Maybe the second or third best left back the Premier League's ever seen after Ashley Cole, who's got the undisputed winner. So, yeah, I don't think Evra had too much of an effect that first year. And I mean, even that Man United team 2008 had Wes Brown playing at right back. Gary Neville was sort of coming at the end. He was injured a lot. So they put Wes Brown in, who was a centre-back, who then went on to play for and get relegated with Sunderland. So it's not like actually they had this amazing defence. Obviously, they had 2 fantastic defenders. In Van der Sar is an excellent goalkeeper. I think as well, they actually have, between the 3 of them, the record for most consecutive Premier League clean sheets, beating Chelsea's 2014 with Petr Cech, Carvalho and Terry, and the longest amount of minutes for clean sheets. And he's in that defence.
Very true, very true.
For 7 million!
Forgive me for not remembering. I've lost a few brain cells since Vidic was knocking about. But were Man U known, particularly at that point of their current team, for having a leaky defence? I can remember, obviously, when Vidic came in, they were scoring ample goals, but they were losing 4-3s, they were losing 5-2s, ridiculous scores. It was their defence that was clearly the problem. Is that what you would say?
From what I remember, yeah, I mean, I'm sure they got beaten in the semi-finals of the FA Cup off Portsmouth at one point with the sort of the defenders at the heart. I can't really remember. I mean, that says a lot. I can't really remember who the defenders were. I think it was Johnny Evans, perhaps. Before Vidic came in, like I say, they had Wes Brown in there. John O'Shea would have been knocking around at the time. I'm sure they had people like Gabriel Hensey at the club. They were playing
a bit before. Yeah.
They played Fletcher and Carrick as centre backs at times. They were struggling. They did have some out and out defenders. There were some injuries. They had to like sort of knock some other people about. But yeah, they weren't overly settled. They did concede goals, which was the main issue that they had, because they had Wayne Rooney up front still. Ronaldo was sort of building up, and even before that 2008 season, he had a couple of seasons. I think he was on 20 goals a season, so he wasn't doing badly. So yeah, I think he really solidified that defence. He became a partner with Ferdinand. He's won PFA Team of the Years, Defenders of the Years, FIFA Pro World 11s, which is notoriously difficult for Premier League players to get into that FIFA 11 because it's consistently been La Liga from the turn of the century. So, yeah, I think he's the outstanding choice. 7 million. What he did for Man United, the amount of trophies that he won when they went 3 years without them, the consistency, the legacies left behind, the fact that people now put him and Ferdinand as the best centre-back partnership of all time in the Premier League, I think, speaks for itself to turn them around in the way that he did. It was very unexpected. Like, before he came, I'd never heard of him. I was like, oh, who's this kid? And I remember he scored a header in these first few games. I was like, wow, who they signed? Who was this lad? Nat Phillip vibes.
Yeah, so a lot of comparisons between the two. I've actually seen a few stat pages in terms of their best seasons, and like Van Dijk's best season when they won the title, and Vidic's, and the stats are really, really close. Something with Van Dijk, though, in that season is that he was never dribbled past. So, in terms of one-to-one defending and not defending as a unit, which obviously Man United had a very good unit, but Van Dijk, I think he had 6 different partnerships. So he wasn't able to build that partnership with another defender the same way that Ferdinand and Vidic were. Also, he has to deal with the fullbacks going on their own separate mission, and he had to cover it. Alisson did play a massive part, and I fully agree with that. But the fact that he was never dribbled past for that whole season is, I think, just shows if you were against Van Dijk, there was only going to be that one winner, and especially when the Premier League is a bit more attacking and a little bit more balanced, I would say that is what makes him stand out a little bit more.
Yeah, that was wasn't that a Premier League stat? 'Cause in the Champions League, didn't Hwang, who now plays for Wolves,
that was
put him on his arse and smash it into the top corner? That smile. We do a Champions League podcast, Aaron.
No,
it's a rhetorical question.
That was the season after.
His kit was filthy after Hwang did that because he soiled himself and the grass was particularly muddy that
So
day.
that was the season after, if I remember correctly, because that was when we started to know about this stat. Because a couple of games into the season, you're probably not going to be like, "Oh, he's never been dribbled past yet."
That was the season they won the league, because they won the Champions League first, didn't they? They won the Champions League. Then it was the season they won the league.
So it was. Yeah, so
that
I'm
it
just
was
saying
in the
he had
Champions
that
League group
season.
stages.
I'm saying he had that season where you didn't get dribbled past, which I think was the one where the Champions League.
I think if you get chinned by a Mackham as well, that's got to be a point against you. Like,
yeah,
come on.
I'm not against that. I'll just put that out there. However, can I draw fact to the fact that Vidic came in, Man U hadn't won anything for 3 years. How do you feel the whole, remind me, how long was it Liverpool had waited?
1990, wasn't it?
35 years, I think.
35. Do you feel as if
no, was it not?
that-
Yeah, no, actually, no, yeah. I think it was it 1989? 89?
It was 1990. All I know is that Steve Nicol played for them.
Yeah, I mean, it was
And
before the
Alan
Premier
Hunt,
League.
yeah.
It was a lot. It was 30 plus years.
Yeah.
Do you feel as if that bears any relation to the impact and how successful it can be deemed?
Well, I mean, Liverpool won the Champions League in 2005, so that's a massive, massive tournament. So I'd say going back to 2005 is when I probably maybe counted from. As you win the Champions League, it's a big deal.
It's all right.
It's all right. Yeah, average. So maybe go back to then, but yeah, you're right. Obviously, it is a longer period of time to go without one. But Liverpool, let's be honest, for the last 30 years, don't have any history of success. In the last 30 years, they've won FA Cups, they've won a few League Cups, but before that, like Champions League, when that was the first one in a long time, like sort of 15 or so years, that was one of the big two. So what we're talking about here are, for Liverpool standards, the 70s in particular, what we're talking about are league titles in European Cups or Champions Leagues as they are now. So they hadn't, for 30 odd years, had really many degrees of success. One final won, one final lost, which again is better than most people will ever do. Whereas Man United were used to winning things. Man United were in their glory days. Man United of the 90s and 2000s were the Liverpool of the 70s and 80s, like the top team. Obviously catching up and overtaking Liverpool, and that's a massive thing. Vidic as part of that team was so instrumental, and them overtaking Liverpool's, at the time, championship record. So I think just in terms of the culture and the team, I think it was a bigger deal for Man United not to win the league for 3 years than Liverpool not winning the league. So it's kind of, I mean, even before Suarez came in, when was the closest that they got to a league title? Maybe once under Julian. I don't think they were that close. And then before that, I mean, the 90s they were never close, I don't think. Like, top fours or five.
Battling out for second with Newcastle, late 90s, early 2000s.
Well, they were nowhere near second, though. That's the thing.
But they didn't finish outside the top four.
Yeah, but I mean,
always
there's a commodity on the
in
top.
around
There's a
there.
commodity on the top four.
I mean, top four wasn't as big of a deal back then as it is now,
Like
financially.
yeah, they've always been successful. They've always been a good team. They've always been a team that you
didn't
don't want to go to Anfield. Like,
Yeah.
And to be fair, Liverpool have so rightly given Newcastle a very good hiding at St James's Park as well. They're not a team that I like us playing because they tend to beat us. So it's not slagging off Liverpool. It's not saying they're not a bad team, but let's be honest. It was more of a surprise when Liverpool won the league than didn't win the league, or maybe like not so much after the season before with the Man City title race. That's when we thought, wow, okay, now how are they going to respond? This is going to be amazing. But before then, it was like, I remember when it was 2013 when it was Liverpool lost it to Man City. It was a surprise to everyone that Liverpool were top of the league with like 4 or 5 games to go.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. And they had a great team. But before the season started, no one went, Liverpool will be in pole position to win the league this year. At all. Like with the years before that, the years after that, before sort of Klopp managed to really dig his teeth into the team, especially the state that Brendan Rodgers sort of left it in. So yeah, I think it was a bit of it was more important because it's just the best January transfer. I think it was so important to get Vidic in because if they didn't bring him in, Man United would have turned into Liverpool then in 2007, 2008, instead of like when Sir Alex Ferguson left. In between that time, I think Sir Alex Ferguson won 6 league titles.
To combat that, I would say though that because of the way that Sir Alex Ferguson coached, he probably would have been able to turn another defender to that high caliber because he made players who are mediocre look unreal. While
I mean, he made Eric Jemba look absolutely class. That
But
Cleverson in the middle, he's class with the brass. And he did
But there's-
Fabregas, that one.
but
Yeah,
there's
I mean,
more-
I remember so many banners that he scored.
but there's more successes, and I feel like Vidic maybe been the top target, but I reckon he would have had a few others. Klopp had pinned all of his hopes on Van Dijk to the point where he paid that world record fee, to the point where they approached him illegally. That's why the transfer broke down in the summer. So they had basically pinned all of their hopes on Van Dijk. There was no other
And
alternative.
you pinned all your hopes on an illegal transfer, Aaron. How does this make you feel?
I mean, it was illegal in the summer. January
Didn't go
transfer.
through, so it's fine.
And so I think, if I remember correctly, Vidic left before Ferguson, correct?
Yes, he did.
So that means after Vidic left, they still won the league.
Yes.
Whereas when Van Dijk was out, you saw the collapse of Liverpool.
I mean, they'd only went one season without winning the league to that Man City team that won it in the 94th minute, drew in the 92nd and won it in the 94th. So they had one season where they didn't win the league. Liverpool with Van Dijk have had a season not winning the league. They're probably not going to win the league.
But like I
this
said,
season.
it's also going back to that earlier point though, where
Yeah, I think obviously we've had half of Vidic's life cycle now with Van Dijk. So I'm sure what this is 3.5 years, is it? 4 years, 3 years this January, whatever it is. So we've had half his life cycle, and Vidic, I think by this point in Van Dijk's career, had won 3 league titles, just off the spin. And again, it's the best transfer. I think you've got to look at it from everything that a transfer brings in as well. So if we're looking at it this way, Man United only spent 7 million versus 75. If we put the players on par, 75 to 7. They bought them from abroad, which means they didn't give another Premier League club 75 million to spend. And then obviously we don't know what's going to happen to Van Dijk, so it's impossible to sort of judge. But they did sell Vidic to Inter Milan. So they recouped some of that 7 million back. So it didn't even cost them that. Obviously, he would have paid wages. And that's the thing, Vidic would have been on monumentally less wages than Van Dijk. Like, I think
money's totally different now, though.
Yeah, that's true. But again, Vidic wouldn't have been on as much as Rio Ferdinand. So it's great that we can use Ferdinand as an example because he was the most expensive defender in the world at one point. And when Vidic came in, he was winning the plaudits over Ferdinand. He was winning the PFA Defender of the Year award over Ferdinand. So he was... It's like Liverpool buying someone now, literally, for 25 million in the turnout to win things over Van Dijk, which is crazy. But yeah, it's not just who is the best player. I just think everything about the transfer, what success it had on the team, the fact that it rejuvenated a dying Man United so that they had another best part of a decade of success before this, I don't know how many years is now, 8? Is it 8 years that they haven't won in 2013? I think was the last title that they won.
It's almost 10.
So, yeah, he was one of the driving forces that stopped that from happening, which was so important at the time.
Right, so we've heard a lot. Some of it utter bollocks, but other make very good points. Is there anything that either of you feel you've missed out you'd like to add, or can we wrap up some sick points?
I think we are talking about, if we end up looking back at the whole Premier League era, we probably are trying to compare two of the best defenders that there's been. Probably just had John Terry, and we're probably talking about greatest defender.
Yeah.
So it's all up to you, Alice.
Oh, that's a bit of a cop out, isn't it? Anything you've got to add, Dan?
I think I've said all that needs to be said.
You've said a fair bit.
I've said a lot.
Fantastic. Well, through the magic of editing, I come back to you with my decision. Thank you, lads, both Aaron and Dan. Lots of good points, I have to say, delivered with lots of fire and gusto. I've got to say, I've based this one on, because in terms of the points that you made, all very valid. Found it very hard to split the pair of you, but I think I've gone with Dan and Nemanja on this one. Now, very narrowly, I have to say, but based on the passion of delivery and the sporadic use of sarcasm, big fan of it. So well done.
I'm happy with that. I thought I might have lost the points for accidentally singing the Anderson song instead of the Cleverson song for a moment there. Faux pas on my part.